Welcome to the Little Psychic Podcast, where grounded growth meets soul work. Limiting beliefs get bust wide open, and your intuition is cast as the secret weapon to leading the way in your life and business. I'm June Mack, Spirit Channel for Light Leaders, intuition coach, and not your average business mentor. My mission is to make working with spirit no longer something you have to hide for credibility, but something embraced as powerfully as business strategy. This podcast is more than words and conversations. It's an energetic activation, and we dive into all things spirituality, purpose, and soul-led entrepreneurship to align you with your highest frequency and help you understand why the hell you came here. If you're listening, this is not a coincidence, this is a call out. You came here with a mission, you came here to create an impact, and you are not here to play small. If you found me, you better be ready to remember. Hello and welcome to my latest episode of the Little Psychic Podcast. I am your host, June Mack. I am a psychic medium and I love helping other spiritual entrepreneurs to open up and hone in on their psychic abilities and then create a booked out business of impact. It is my jam, but today I also get to try on the title of co-book author and am very excited to have an actual book author or the co-book author of our children's book, Remembering Grandpa. I have got Kelly Norman on today. So I'm very excited. And we're here to tell our story about how our book came about and how it all happened. So would you like to introduce yourself, Kelly? Welcome.
Oh, hi. Thank you. I'm so excited.
Excited / nervous.
A little bit.
Yeah. That's so normal. And that means you care. So that's a good thing. Did you want to tell people a little bit about yourself and what it is that you do and about your books?
Okay. Well, my name's Kelly. First and foremost, I am a mum and I'm also a children's author as well as a high school librarian. I've worked in education for about 15 years, mostly in the library sector. And I am very passionate about children's literacy and getting books in young people's hands.
I absolutely love that. And I have come from, well, a childhood where I was always in a book as well. And always imagining things. And now I think about it, I sort of look back and I go, I don't even know if I actually was imagining things or seeing things or remembering things from like crazy past lives, like seriously, now that I look back at it. But I love that it's something that is completely your jam and completely your thing, because I wouldn't have been able to do this whole journey without you. Just for some context, in case you're new to listening, Kelly and I wrote a children's book together 3 years ago, and it's coming out May 5th, 2025. And yeah, we're going to tell the story today. But I thought a little bit also about you, Kelly. Our book was actually the first one that you got signed for, right? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It was my very first attempt at putting something down and putting it out there into the world for other people to read.
Isn't it cool though? Like sometimes I feel that you need that, like that whole collaboration or just having that energy of someone else supporting you behind it can sort of kick off things.
Support and having someone else believe in you and helping you along the way, because for so long I just believed that what I was writing wasn't good enough, and having someone sit there that was saying, yeah, it is, and we can do this, let's do it together. And I think that's what absolutely put me on the path that I'm on today. So I'm very
That's so exciting and lovely. And I'll get a little bit more into that now. But, while we're at the start of this episode, let's plug your other books. I mean, I don't know how much you can share because I know some of them are still in the works.
right.
But what have you signed since? So obviously we've got Remembering Grandpa, which is coming out. But then you've had others that you signed after, which have come out before Remembering Grandpa, because we're here to tell that story and how it got delayed. But what are your other books?
So I have a novel that I wrote called Understanding Molly. I have another children's book called Be Brave Lucy that's already out as well. Our book, June, and I've also got 3 others that are signed at the moment and on their way to production.
Woohoo! So is that 6 in total?
6 in total,
Because
yes.
I lost count around 5. Like, when you got to about 5, I was like, I can't remember if it's 5 or 6 now. I'm sort of losing count.
So
So
my
that
goal was just to have 1, so anything else I think is just an
Oh,
abs
6 is insane, and you should be so very proud of yourself because there are so many people that are just, their dream in life is literally to have the 1. So the fact that you've got 6, I know you don't give yourself enough credit for it. She's too modest, honestly. But it's such a huge achievement. It really, really is. So I for you. Um, so I think maybe if we go back to the start, the story of how we know each other, do you want to say from your perspective of how we actually got in contact and how we connected?
Oh gosh, it was so long ago. I think, a very good friend of mine, got me interested in the spiritual world and that kind of thing, and I was following another, um, psychic medium, and I think you were as well, and you were doing one of her classes at the time, and I think, we just kind of clicked, and I was your very first person that you did a live reading on. So
Yes, it's so funny how it all works out. So actually your friend, we just won't say her name because I don't know if she's given permission to, like we mentioned on a podcast, but she was inside my Facebook group and she said she literally I was doing a meditation and got the message to invite you in, which is actually giving me chills, like just thinking about it. And so invited you into into my space, and that was the first place, yeah, where I was attempting to do live card readings, trying to push myself out of my comfort zone and absolutely crapping myself, I remember. And yeah, and it's funny because when I do readings and things like that, I tend to forget sort of what comes through because you go to another place, right? Your brain's in delta brain waves or whatever they're in, and I forget a lot. But I do remember, I'm pretty sure straight away I said, "You're a writer, right?"
right, yes, and I actually only just started my novel, which was the first thing that I started, and it was during COVID time. And I remember you saying that to me, and I didn't actually even tell my family at that point in time. I was just kind of doing it on the side, journaling. And you said it, you're a children's a writer, and I'm like, No," and you're like, "Yes, you are. You're going to write books." And are you? I'm not too sure. And you just kept pushing it, and that was, yeah, the first time that I actually considered myself somewhat of a writer. It was amazing.
I love that. And it's funny because it's like I'm not pushing it, spirit's pushing it. It's like people are always like, "You're so insistent," but I'm not insistent, it's them. It's them that's like, "No, yep, that's happening." And they just don't believe it yet, or they don't have that, self-confidence within themselves to believe that it's happening. But it's actually funny because now, like looking back at it, um, I have this thing that I've only just actually identified this year where I can pick up or I recognize a soul contract in somebody else. I don't even know if I've told you about this, have I? So I do believe that you've got soul contracts with other people, and you are meant to come into their lives or into each other's lives, and you either learning from each other or whatever it is you've signed in your contract that you're meant to learn from each other. And now when I meet somebody, including like clients, and if they're meant to work with me in terms of their psychic development, um, I have that recognition. It's like I just know it, and I know that I think actually in one of my earlier episodes where I talked about the book, I think it was called something about the magic of intuition. And I said, "Oh, my intuition told me to take note of you." But now it's like it's more than that. I believe it's like a soul contract recognition where I know that there's something that's going to happen with us. I don't know exactly what, but I know to take note of that person. And obviously, I don't tell people that. Like, I recognize I soul contracted within you now because it's got to be up to them. It's their choice and their free will, whether that eventuates or not. But it's so I could write it down for you, and literally, it's like 9 times out of 10, I'm like, "You're going to be back. You're going to be back in my space. You're not ready right now, but you got to come back. You're going to sign up into my programs," or like, this, even Shannon. So, who's my a business partner in a little psychic school. Like, as soon as she joined the little psychic school, it was just like that. Wait, hang on, I know you, but I didn't know her, if that makes sense.
And I think that's what it felt like right from the start, that I
Yeah.
know you, and that it's completely different to any other kind of friendship I ever had. It was just, yep, that you're my person and this is gonna happen. So
Aw.
I
Yeah. Yeah, and see, that's the thing. That's so cool that you sort of felt the same thing as well. So now when you meet other people, you might, like, remember that and feel that too. Like, I knew there was something, and so obviously, I just went on about living my life, but um we had I think you were one of my first, like, paid reading clients. And, like, obviously without disclosing what happens in that, but similar stuff, like, you're going to be a writer, you're going to be sharing what it is, your talents and whatever with the world. And um when dad passed, I'd always had this idea, or knowing, that there needed to be, some kind of book that was going to help children in regards to what happens when we pass over. And
yeah.
just knowing that, um, love goes on, energy goes on, and that doesn't go nowhere. It doesn't just end. Um, and I mentioned it to you after my dad passed, because then I think that was the divine timing, right, of when it was supposed to happen. And God, I was just like, yeah, I've had this idea, or this knowing that I want to write a book, and it's really important for children, because trying to explain it then to my kids, it's so tricky. Like, my youngest daughter was 2, and she was asking me if heaven was in the dirt, because that's where grandpa was buried, which is all a bit morbid. But trying to explain that, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this book needs to happen. And I mentioned it to Kelly. I don't even know how long was this after he passed. Maybe like 2 months, maybe. Do
Yeah,
you remember
maybe
time frames?
I think of that reading that we did when we were just chatting afterwards, and that's when we had that conversation, because it wasn't
Yeah.
after dad passed away. So yeah,
No.
writing the notes afterwards.
Yeah. And I really believe in manifestation as well, because I just knew that it was gonna happen. Like, I just I just knew that the book was gonna happen in however way, shape, or form. I just believe that. And I'm like that with a lot of different things. And sometimes I think that's why they work out for me, because that's literally manifestation 101, which is like being that energy of it already happening. And so when I mentioned it to you, you were just so amazing. You were just like, "Yeah, okay, let's do it." And it was like a week later or something that you had the first draft. Literally, wasn't it? Like a week.
Yeah, I couldn't, if I wasn't in control anymore, it was just something that I just couldn't put on the back burner. It was just happening, and as I said, I just had to ride with it and just keep on going until it was on paper, which is
Mm,
right, everything's handwritten
yeah, I love that, because it's like automatic writing, which is what it is that I believe that you're doing.
point, but I would write the entire draft and not even remember what it was that I was writing and just send it to you straight away. And yeah, until I read back over it, I had no idea what was coming out.
Yeah, and that's amazing. And yeah, like you said, now you're aware of it, because that's exactly what happens when you're channeling information, is you don't remember it afterwards. And yeah, the draft came through, and then we just went backwards and forwards with, like, changing it. And how did you, okay, so people are going to want to know this, because there's people out there, and so many people that have reached out to me and said, I've always wanted to write a book, like, since we've been sharing our story on social media and that it's coming out. How did you know where to send it? Can I ask that question? Because I don't know, like publishers, for example.
Um, well, to begin with, I think the first publisher, because it is extremely hard to get a publisher to even read your work,
Yeah.
honestly. And so, the first one that I sent it out to was, of course, the big publishers, but you really don't stand a chance unless you are a solicited author, which means that you've already got previous works. And so I was looking at other companies and even sending them to companies overseas. But the first one that I sent it to was our publisher, and they were the ones that ended up picking it up. And it was just through the internet and reading other people on blogs on who to send it to, what to send, like what to say. And I think it was just a trial and error. It was something that I think I just put out there and just see what I'll get back. And the problem with publishing is you have to have a very thick skin. And that was my biggest learning curve, because I don't. and being a perfectionist and not liking failure at all, and I don't deal with failure very well. It was very hard because 90% of it is being rejected, and that's really hard to take, especially when you have trouble believing in yourself. To have someone say that your work's not good enough or you're not what they're looking for, to take that advice and still keep on moving forward is extremely hard to do. And it's something
Mhm.
that I've learned a lot about myself through that, and trying to, I think, change my way of thinking that it's just not right now. And that doesn't mean that it's always not going to be right. It just, you have to keep on perfecting it and rewriting it and taking advice and learning. And I think that, yeah, it's a really long journey and it's a hard journey, but it's something that you kind of make up as you go along, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's a big thing. Like you said, you've learned so much from it, and also learning not to tie your self-worth and what it is that you have to give to somebody else's opinion.
Because that's what
Um,
it is. It's an opinion. It's
yeah,
they don't like it for them. It doesn't mean that other publishers won't like it. It's just not suited to them, and that's really hard to not take on board and take as your
personal.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
me personal. That's right. And I think that's probably the hardest thing that I've had to learn, that just because I'm not good enough for them doesn't mean that I'm not good enough.
Full
Period.
stop. Yeah, yeah. And the other thing I was going to say as well, which I've lost my train of thought now, um, was in terms of when you were saying that you were looking up and where to apply, did you literally, are you part of like communities or groups that, or was it literally through Googling and then like blogs and stuff like that of where to?
Literally through Googling, because at that point I didn't consider myself a writer. And
Right.
I felt very, it was kind of an imposter like syndrome. If I joined those communities, it was saying that I'm a writer, and with that title comes the risk of being a failed writer, if that makes sense. And I didn't
Mm,
put that out there, so I
yeah.
just kind of did it on my own because it was hard to take that label and consider myself a writer, because to me I wasn't. I was just and I think the biggest step that I took was actually putting my work out there, because that was
Yeah.
so hard to do for me, because doing that means that someone had the right to look at my work and have an opinion on it, and I wasn't quite ready to do that.
Yeah, and that's so funny though, because the first thing that I think is like, even if you do get rejected from publishers, the fact, like, I wouldn't even think of it as a failure, because the fact that you're actually trying and you've actually taken a step and putting yourself out there and opening yourself up to judgment, to me, that's a success, like within yourself, to actually even have the guts to be able to do that, because so many people never even take that step.
Exactly, and that's
Yeah.
huge for me, and, I can see that now, and I completely agree with you now, but when you are beginning, it is so raw, and the things that I write about is very personal to me, and,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like having someone look at my life and saying, "Oh, sorry, that's not for me."
Well, your soul, like you've given them a part of your soul, really, that's come through, and yeah, and but also, it's funny because you're talking about the imposter syndrome around the title writer. And this is like literally a conversation that I've had a lot within Psychic School Elite, so the program that I'm running at the moment. And I think on a couple of my latest podcast episodes, which is where so many people in light worker business don't call themselves a psychic or a medium, me included, when I first started, because of the imposter syndrome. So like you have to just something that we spoke about in Psychic School Elite was the fact that if there are certain words that trigger you, don't let it stop you from doing what it is that you're here to do. Just adjust it. So I called myself, to begin with, I think, Intuitive Earth Guide, which is a bit of a mouthful, but I was able to actually get my work out there and then still do what I believe is part of my purpose, but not freak myself out by using the title psychic, because I felt that with that title then came the expectations of then needing to do all the things that those amazing psychics that I'm not like them, had to do. So just by tweaking the name, call yourself whatever the hell you want. What's another version of a writer if you've got the syndrome around it? Either way, you don't need to be a published writer, I don't believe. I just think like if that's something that comes out, but I don't know, call yourself or channeling. Let's run it through Chat GPT and come back with some different options. But I'm sure Chat GPT have quite a few different options there.
Yeah,
But if that word's freaking you out, yeah, basically the moral that I was trying to get to was if there's a certain word that's freaking you out or triggering you, don't let it stop you, just change it. Like,
and I think that
try on something that fits.
that was the big thing, is that I couldn't not be a writer. And even though I didn't want to label myself in that way, I couldn't stop. I couldn't put it down until, especially when I was writing our book, because your dad was coming through to me in my dreams. And this was something that I just couldn't stop doing, because I knew that honestly, he wouldn't let me sleep until I got it down and got it to you.
Yeah. No, he wouldn't. He was a very pushy in real life. And, he was never a published writer, but he's someone that I would definitely call a writer. He was his life. I've got books and I'm so grateful, books and books, like tubs full of writing, and he'd write about his life and he'd write really amazing, amazing poems and just like pull these things out of how did you even pull that together? And some of my best memories are like literally him sitting on the end of my bed, like reading to me his writing. And the fact that people are going to be able to do that, it's making me like emotional with our book, like for their children. I can't even deal. I just can't even deal. So the fact that he never got his writing published, I think just for like honestly, just for lack of, he didn't know what to do. Like he wouldn't know how.
And I remember you saying that to me when I said to you, but June, I'm not a writer, because at this point I wasn't even signed at all. And I'm saying to you, but I'm not a writer. And you were saying, but neither was my dad. It doesn't mean that what he wrote wasn't special.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that really kind of hit a nerve. So
yeah. And if you're a writer, you're a writer. I just believe that. Like, I don't think no one else needs to tell you or give you that title. If you feel like you're a writer, you're a writer. Like, I mean, I write content on social media. To me, that's like, and I pour my heart out into some of those posts. So I feel like that's a form of being a writer. But although technically now I can say author, co-author or whatever, but I still consider that, like, because people literally share their soul, like, and that moves people and that makes changes and differences for other people. So that's amazing. And the fact that, yeah, he would have been just wanting to get this book out there because he used to do his writing and they'd read it in the old people's home, like where he was in the retirement village, and they'd put his stuff up like on the little notice board and people would come and read it, and they'd be like, oh, your dad's such a great writer. And that was like probably his shining moments, really, was from the retirement village, everyone reading his paper, his writing there. But it's so great that you've been able to like capture that essence of him and, do it for him. It's almost like you've finished that he needed to do for him.
exactly. And I think that that's a really special, probably my biggest inspiration is that legacy and the belief that I wanted to have something that lasted well after I do. After I pass away, my books are always going to be out there. And it's kind of like with your dad, you've still got that box of his books and his
Yeah.
writing, and it's a little piece of your soul that lives on after after you. And I wanted to give that to my children and the generations after, even if I think that's just so special. And I think that when you have your guiding purpose, if you will, of why you do it. And I think that that's what makes it special. I'm not writing to trends. I'm not writing books that are just funny. It's a little piece of me. And I think that that's what makes it worthwhile to me.
That's so amazing. And honestly, I hadn't really thought about it before, but my thing is like spiritual entrepreneurs, and you are. That's what you are. which is really cool. Because you're literally, this is your soul led, like spiritual entrepreneurs are people that create businesses or create, a life because it's something that their soul just cannot not do, if that makes sense.
Do it. And
Yeah.
that's absolutely right. Even though
Yeah.
I put it down and I'll come back to it, it's just something that I think is it's bigger than I am. And I think that that's the reason why I'm here is for that reason.
Yeah, and it's amazing. And so anyway, going back to our story, I guess what happened was we got the letter back and it was maybe it was like a month after you'd sent it in,
Yeah. I think it's
I
3 weeks.
think.
I think, yeah.
Yeah. And like it was funny because we were so excited and happy and just like, oh my, like couldn't believe it, but also I could believe it. I was like, yeah, of course. Like part of me was like, I know. Like I knew this was gonna happen. Like but also like, wow, that was quick. Like it was almost a bit like surreal, you know. Um and then we signed the actual contract 5 months like after he passed, like almost to the day.
Today, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, which was crazy. And then gosh, and then after that, it's been it's been a ride.
It would be a few months and we would be holding the book and plans, and it kind of didn't go down that way.
No, I always say to people it's not like on Sex in the City, like how you see Carrie like typing on the computer and then her work's out there and she's having a book launch and getting all the photos taken.
It's a huge lesson in being patient, and that's not my forte.
Oh gosh, there were so many times that we were like, do you think this is gonna happen? Like, is this actually gonna go ahead? And you're like, can't you use your psychic powers and check like if it's gonna happen?
So sorry.
Oh, and I was like, I wish, but when it comes to stuff that's like connected to me, obviously I've got a good sense of intuition. Like, I mean, look at what we've achieved together, but it's like when there's stuff that you're emotionally tied to because your emotions are so much there. I'm as completely in the no, I have no idea just as much as, everybody else. And there's so many psychic mediums that are the same is because when your emotions take over because you want it, so much, you're like, okay, is that because I think it's going to happen, but is that because I really want it to happen? Is that, my intuition or what spirit's
Am I
telling
just
me or
manifesting this to happen, or is this actually destined to happen, or is it gonna happen? And I'm so sorry that I made you do this. This might have been a big mistake. And
no.
I think we just had to, we were kind of already there, so we just had
Yeah.
to,
And I don't think even if it didn't work out that it would be a mistake anyway, because I've loved every like even I think it's all been a journey and such a learning process. So I don't regret any of it. Like even if it didn't come out, obviously I'd be disappointed, but I wouldn't regret anything. I wouldn't change anything. So know that if you ever, because it's so silly that you were feeling bad, like, oh my God, sorry, I tried to make your dreams come true. Like, but yeah, the editing process, so that even that I didn't know about, like how many times did it go backwards and forwards of changing it from what it originally was to where it is now.
but
Like
I
how,
think that the without the spoilers of our book, that there's a poem that was written at the end that I truly believe somewhat came from your dad, because when we were writing it, it was just so beautiful and definitely not the way that I usually write words. And it was just that hadn't changed at all from the first edit to the last. And I think
yeah.
that that's so special.
And the whole meaning or core of the book, which is, and this is what I actually really love about it, is initially it did start out more spiritual because, hello, um, like it started it, but it got changed, but it got changed where it sort of now fits for any religion, belief system. And I actually really, that's probably one of my favorite things about it is that anyone can pick it up and it doesn't matter what you believe. It's just the core of it, which is that even when people pass, all that matters is that the love continues and the love goes on. And that is like the most important thing. And yeah,
Love is something you feel, uh, when you look at memories and what we remember from our childhood and what these young children in the book, what, because the young girl couldn't remember her grandpa, she felt that she was missing out, or, that she was trying to find those memories within her, and at the end, the learning that it's the love that you feel, and that's what makes it special, and that's the connection that we have, and I think that that is just such a beautiful reminder, and it doesn't matter your religion, it doesn't matter how old you are, that's something that you feel.
Yeah, and that's, like, for me now, probably my favorite part of it is that it fits for anybody. And it's funny because throughout, like, this 3 years that we've been waiting for it to come out, whenever I'd have, because I got a lot of people that practice psychic stuff on me because obviously I teach it and then they practice on me. So I get, like, heaps of free readings, which is amazing from up and coming psychic mediums. But something that came through regularly about the book, so I wouldn't ask questions, it would just come up, like, so many people would get it, get that from their information when we hadn't, they didn't know anything about it. And something that they would always say is the most important thing is keep that core, um, like, message behind it and make sure that that is communicated, when the book comes out. So, that's something that I always remember, which is the key message behind it and which is why it's so important. And I actually remember, I think the first version that got accepted to the publisher, I remember sitting on Dad's grave and, like, reading it to him. Yeah, and it's just like, because it got signed and it just, like, yeah, she's Kelly saying she's got goosebumps as if people aren't watching this. But because I just remember thinking, like, I can't believe that this has happened. Um, yeah, and just crazy to, and then now to where we are now, and we went through 3 different illustrators.
Yeah. And I think that at the time, that was very hard because it kept pushing the book back and it just felt like it was never going to happen. But, as I'm looking at the book now, I think it was just waiting for that specific illustrator who was meant to illustrate the book, was waiting for her to be available.
I agree, and this is another thing that I didn't know, so this is for sharing for people who are looking into this process for themselves, is that if you, get signed with a publisher, depending on what type of, book signing contract you sign, you usually don't have creative control over the illustrator. I didn't know that.
Yeah, we've never met the illustrator. They're not
Connected to us in any way.
in Australia. Yeah, it's just someone that the publisher contracts to illustrate the book.
Yeah, and so they had picked one came through, the first one came through quite quickly, and we both, like, really loved her work, and then that fell through within the first, couple of months, I think.
About
Yeah.
since we started? Yeah.
Yeah, and then they assigned another one, so all of this in between is, like, months in between, because 'cause they've got other books, like, if you're a publisher and, you're publishing books, they've got other books that they're doing as well, it's not like they're just working on yours. So there was months wait in between, like, all of this, and then we got another illustrator that actually illustrated nearly finished the book. We kept getting updates of, like, what the pictures looked like, the illustrations looked like, and the book was nearly done, and then it fell through.
So
Yeah, and we were completely like, "What the he," like, we were just like, "Ugh, what is this? Is this for real?" We were both like, and, like, I think you already had then your second published book by this point, second or third.
easily happened. I don't understand what is happening.
Yeah, and then anyway, finally, and this is always cutting it very short, but we got our third and final illustrator, which I can't even say her name.
Like,
Could you know how to say it? I've got the book over here, but it's
yeah,
Yamastato Matato.
yeah, the illustrator.
Yeah, I'm so sorry to her. Um, I don't know how to say Yosef, Yamasato Yosef or something like that. Making it sound like tomato. I'm very sorry, Yosef.
We should practice that before the launch.
I know we definitely should. But we don't even know how to pronounce it because we've never spoken to her, never had contact with her. I do follow her on Instagram now, but you're actually not allowed to. Like, we weren't allowed to contact her either. So. But anyway, the illustrations, I couldn't have imagined them, and this is exactly what Kelly said. I really do as well truly believe that all of that actually happened in our favor because it's so beautiful, and she, Kelly was channeling some stuff from dad. This illustrator for sure was channeling because she doesn't know anything about either of us. And some of the synchronicities were just crazy. Um, yeah, even the biracial family. So because if you open the book, grandpa, I don't know a nice way to say this, but is white like my dad. And me or the characters that were based around myself and my daughters, African American, I'm gonna say. I don't know characters, and just the father is white like my husband, and we were just like, what? Like, how did this biracial?
And the symbols, the boat, the lighthouse, just things that absolutely have no relevance or ties to the story at all.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. And throughout this 3 years as well, people who had been channeling my dad kept saying, lighthouse. He's showing me a lighthouse. So many times, so many readings, like I actually have lost count. And I'm like, oh, so I first initially thought that they were talking about this photo, like this iconic photo that I've got of my dad, and he's with two of his granddaughters, in that photo, and he's like at a lighthouse in Byron Bay, which is where my brother lives near there, my older brother. And I just thought they were talking about this iconic photo because we've all got it. All the siblings have got it. And now that I think about it, I think the whole time it was around the book.
Australia. And when I would dream about your dad and he would show me the birds and different things that I was seeing, I had never met your dad. Uh,
Mm,
and just, they're on every page. And
yeah.
yeah, it was like, okay, that's what we were supposed to be waiting for. All right.
Yeah. And there's like, beautiful pictures, yeah, with he's standing at the top of the lighthouse and there's all birds around him. And that was a thing. For those of you that listen to the podcast or follow my story, a pigeon is a sign that I get from my dad, or like a spirit animal, if you will. And when dad was actually passing, so he loved birds. We'd always go bird watching with him, but he'd always say his grandfather, if I haven't told this story before, his grandfather, when me and my dad would sit together, his dad used to own world famous honing pigeons. And when we'd sit around and pigeons would come, he'd always say, oh, look, grandpa's here. My grandpa's here. And when dad was passing away, he was in between, like he was saying some crazy stuff, like when he was passing, like in between both worlds. And there was one point when it was touch and go, and the doctor sort of said, like, it could go either way from here to me and my sister. And a few hours later, dad said, oh, well, who let all the birds in? Who let all the birds in here? And yeah, we just went, "What?" And he goes, "Oh, there's pigeons everywhere. There's pigeons in here." And we both looked at each other and we just knew like he wasn't coming home because they're coming to get him now. So even that, yeah, the birds on every page, yeah, the lighthouse, just the way that she relayed the illustration. So we get the brief that has, her vision behind the illustrations, and just how she said, what did she say? Um, the lighthouse is grandpa's love or something like that. And
Like Shining Home, he's the home. Also, I can't even remember, but it was perfect.
yeah, and around the sea being his life, and something about the grandchildren. And actually the letter that dad left us, I should have got it out ready, but when he passed, he'd left us a letter, and it literally talks about how time is like the ocean, which is part of the poem that you've also written in its side. Yeah.
Before we wrote that, and I think one of the lines, let me just pull out my book. I should know it.
I know, I should have had it right next to me. It's over there. I'm trying to read our illustrator's name from over here.
Time is forever, but also not long. And I think that it was almost words very close to what he actually wrote in the letter that
Yes.
he you. It was incredible.
Yeah. It says something along the lines of like waves. Time is like, it starts out slowly, like how the ocean would be lapping, and then slowly it builds up, and then you get waves and you get crashed out at sea. Anyway, it's something along those lines, which I will share at some point. I should share that. But yeah, just everything in the illustrations, it just completely, it's just so magical. And I remember like when I've got the first copies, which was just last month, we got our first copies of the book, and just sitting outside and just like poring over the pages. And I'm just in love with it. And I actually don't feel like I would have felt the same way had it been any of the other two illustrators.
But
Yeah.
it was and patience because it was a long slog waiting for it to.
Yes. So I was going to ask you as well, in terms of, you were saying you felt like dad was getting you messages throughout because most people, this is the Little Psychic podcast, right? People that listen love the woo woo story. Was there any little bits and pieces that you wanted to share about? Because there was lots of things that you told me that you're like, oh my God, your dad said this or this happened. And I've forgotten a lot of them now, but I thought they were really cool to share with people.
Yeah, like, so, I'd never actually had any experiences like this before, but I remember, I kept dreaming about your dad and he would show me it was like a movie reels, and it was like I was watching and it was just kinda on repeat, and I think 2 of the most significant ones was the first one where I could smell I could smell his cologne in
Oh,
my
yes.
seeing, just smelling it, and it was just such a unique scent. And I remember turning around and he was standing there and like he was very, just straight faced. And then all of a sudden he just started smiling and he put his hands up and did jazz hands. I remember like smiling and that was just kind of kept doing it over and over. And I remember telling you that the next day and you would say like, he always danced and like
Yeah.
I would know that. And another one I remember is I think that was kind of the tie to the time reference in the poem. And I remember him looking at his watch. And I remember the watch, and it was one of those ones that had the turn. You could turn the circumference of the watch around, and he kept turning it back, and he would turn it forward. And I
Yes.
remember thinking that, time is forever, but also not long. And that's what I remembered thinking in my dream. Okay, so that's what you're trying to tell me that, it's all about time,
Yeah.
winding back the clock and, making sure that I understood that, even though he wasn't here, he was still around because time kind of stands still over there. And yeah, and I just remember like what he was wearing and the the knitted cardigans and things like that, and it was just unbelievable.
Yeah, you were so accurate. You were completely mediumship, like like channeling my dad. Like, yeah, his actions, the things he would do, the things he would wear. Even I think when the first version of the book that got signed, the last line of it, I remember you said like you heard him say it.
That's right. Yeah, I remember that too. I kind of remember we should have wrote it down, June. Honestly,
We've got it somewhere. Like we've got it, all the copies, like all the drafts somewhere. But it was something like "We always will" or something like that.
that's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
something. Yeah, and it just kept clocking over in my head over and over, and I could hear him saying it. And I remember waking up the next morning. It was like 4 o'clock in the morning, and texting it to you because I was so scared that I would forget it. It was just because I'd never actually had any experience like that before, and that's why it wasn't like a dream, it was more like a memory, and I could
Yes.
recall everything, and it's just completely different to anything that I'd ever felt before.
Which one day you should totally come for me for psychic development because I could help you to do this on cue. One day I get you doing this on cue because if you can do that while you're channeling stuff for your book, you can do this normally. It's just a matter of tweaking a few things. But you know what's got me thinking as well? There's probably a lot of writers out there that don't actually realize that they are also what they're sharing and what's coming through is probably channeled information too.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
like this writing, it was as I said before, like I would just kind of get into this flow state where my hand would just start writing and I would just write and write and write and I would just get to the end and have absolutely no idea what it is. And I would read it back and it was like I was reading it for the first time. And I think that
Mm.
something completely different to when you're actually sitting down and you're trying to create a book. It just doesn't come that easy because it's not, you're on a different level.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not coming from, I guess, soul. And automatic writing actually was one of my first ways that I learned that I was, and because I've always written, I write to like get things off my chest. I write to process feelings. Stuff would just come through and I'd want to write it down. And I'm the same. I love to have stuff like, look at my notes for today. It's just a mess of handwritten. I need to handwrite too. And automatic writing was one of the first ways that I actually realized that I did have psychic abilities, and that what I was doing was real. I actually there's a automatic writing workshop inside the Little Psychic School, just by the way, if anyone's interested. It's totally worth your, um, even though because it's $54 monthly and you can jump in and out whenever you like. That one automatic writing workshop, the feedback I have from that workshop has been insane. That one workshop would be worth your $54, like, right there. Just saying, if people are like, "What is this? What's this automatic writing? Like, what are you talking about?" Um, yeah, like you're saying, I do believe there's a lot of people out there that are doing it that don't actually realize that it's a thing.
I have absolutely no idea what it was, and I just yeah, the things that come out are just incredible, and it's things that I wouldn't normally think in my
Yeah.
20s.
I've come out with words before that I have had to Google because I don't even know what it means. I'm like, "What's that? What is that word?" And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, it's like a thing," or it's in another language. I've had that happen before too, where it's literally been in another language. And your books are beautiful, so beautiful. So, we will pop you don't have a website just yet, do you?
No, and I really should.
Yes, we've had this discussion. But I know that they would send me through the links afterwards in terms of where your other books are, and we can add that into the bottom of the show notes till you get your website on. But I just found, just so that I have not butchered my dad's work, the time part in my dad's letter that he left us. So I'll just read that bit so that everyone's like, "This sounds." I'm just like, I made a mess of what it was that he wrote. So this is the original version, and when you'll buy the book, you can read the book, the version that's within the book. But so on page 4 of the letter that he left, it was for me and my 2 sisters and my brother, so there's 4 of us, and it says, "Yes, precious time, life's time. At first it flows gently, taking us along with it. Then about middle life it speeds up, then finally crashes out into the sea, taking us with it, and then we are gone." So it says, "Get on with life, make your own pathways, try to make them count for something. Be honest, don't make up lies, they only compound into more lies. I did my best to live a good life, hurting no one. If I had enemies, I never knew them. I should have died 5 or 6 times in my army days. God gave me more time." That's just one part of it. But that's the first part. You can see the paragraph, which is about.
And within our poem, it's time is forever, but also not long. Treasure this life, cherish each other. I'll be with you now and forever.
Oh, I love that. And by the time this episode comes out, the book will be out. So, because we were like, we're not supposed to share bits, and so people can hear that online. Yeah, which is amazing. And so while we finish up, I wanted to ask you because you were saying what a tricky journey it's been for you, especially, and learned a lot about yourself, like over these last 3 years that you have been writing books and getting them published. You are, I know you've got your goals and things that you want to do in terms of your writing work, but those times that you wanted to quit, like I know that you had a time where you pulled down you had a public page, right?
I did. Yep. Social
Yeah.
media. And I just went through a stage where I just felt that, what I was doing wasn't good enough. And it just, I was a fraud. And so I pulled it all down and I just went, that's it. I'm not writing it anymore. I had a bad experience with another publisher and it just felt that I just couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't face and I couldn't handle the disappointment that I kept on feeling, and I was just done. And so I deleted it all. I was feeling like a failure, and so I did. And it turns out that I really didn't have a choice because I just kept feeling this. My soul was just missing something, and I just
Mm.
that that's what it was, and I had to write. So I just started writing again, and I remember, you getting very upset and disappointed in the fact that I did that and told me off, and so as did a lot of people, and so, yeah, I just decided to start again and build myself up, and yeah, that's what I had to do, and I think that was part of my journey and realize because it made me realize how much it actually did mean to me.
Yes. Yep.
And
And I actually, this is why I asked you to share that because I just think it's so relatable. Like for someone that works with spiritual entrepreneur, that's literally like my thing. Do you know how many people have been there or like literally have wanted to do that or have done it, and just completely retracted everything? Like they started something or a business and complete and done that. And so, there's been many times where I've thought, this is too hard. Why did I choose this? Like, I'm putting myself out there every day, and you're gonna get people that don't resonate with you or think that what you do is a load of crap, or you're making things, or you're ripping people off, like literally, or I've had people think that I'm communicating with demons. Like there's a lot that you have to deal with as well in this space. And I'm pretty sure I've never spoken to no demon that tells you to go for your hopes and dreams and live your best life. Like, if that's what a demon is saying, then it's a pretty unique type of demon. But it's just like in the end, you can't not do it. So,
I think I had to let go of that control.
mm,
I can't control other people's actions, and I think that when if I was to start basing my success on how many books I sold, or if people bought my book or whatnot, then it kind of takes away of what makes it special. Why am I writing? Why am I doing this? It's not to make money, because
no,
you are John Grisham. You're not going to make a good living out of it. It's just something that I do because it makes me feel good. And I think
yeah,
that's the important thing. When you think about it, books are a child's first introduction to empathy, to imagination and connection to the outside world. And I think that that's why you're writing the books. It's not to make $1 million, because you might not, and that's okay. That's not why I'm doing it.
yeah. And I think that's like the really important thing is that most people who do start out in this space, they're not doing it because they're basing off how much money they're going to make. And if you are doing that, then that's probably not coming from the right place. They're doing it because it's literally your soul's purpose. This is your soul's need and want, that you don't feel complete unless this is what you're doing. And I've said this just a couple of nights ago in the little psychic school, that I love helping other people be able to do this for themselves and believe in themselves to be able to do it, because you the life that you live when you're able to express literally your soul in form of what it is that you do is just so incredibly different. And the happiness, the contentfulness that you feel, like there's nothing that can replace that. And literally, if I had, and I even said this, if someone gave me like $20 million, like obviously I'd go and take a holiday, but I would still do this.
Yeah.
I still could not do this because it's a part of me, it's a part of my soul, and it's what makes me happy and makes me feel like I have purpose. So, although in saying that, and you're saying, yeah, we don't do it to make money, money also is the byproduct of the impact that you've made within the world. And the more money you have, the more people you can help. So, if the money is a byproduct of the impact that you've made, I don't think there's anything wrong with that either, because the more good people with money do good things with the money, right? So for those of you that are like, oh, if you're a spiritual entrepreneur or whatever, you can't, make cash, or you don't, you should be doing it for free, or it's an energy exchange, and money is just energy. So you're going to need to get something in time for your energy. Otherwise you're going to get burnt out and then you'll crash and burn. I've done that many times before, like literally ended up on my ass, like completely burnt out because I gave away too much without that energy exchange. So sorry, that was my rant for the end. I don't even know if that made sense.
I absolutely agree. It's not, I think, it's not that you don't want to be successful in your writing. It's more so that I think when you look at it from a perspective of why you're writing it, why
Yes.
it's this.
Yeah.
I do it because it makes me feel good. It makes
Mhm.
it's nothing like, having someone read your work and say that it meant something to them, and it touched them, and that's just such a wonderful feeling. And
Yeah.
that is why you do it.
Yeah, 100%. And it becomes like addictive, I feel like when you are able to put your work out into the world and it starts making that impact on people, that feeling is literally addictive. So you just keep doing it. This is why you just keep doing it, even though there are moments like you that which are so relatable that you shared, where you do, of course, you have those, you get to that next level of like imposter syndrome of like, oh my God, like, why am I doing this? Why do I put myself out there? Why do I open myself up to all of this? Because it's worth it to you and the
And that's how you know it's worth it, is when it hurts.
yeah, yeah. And you know, and you said before as well, people that are going to judge you or have their own, you know, perspectives of what it is that you do, it's not worth not living out your soul's purpose and making yourself unhappy to try and keep everybody happy because that's never going to happen. And it's not worth holding yourself back and not living out like what it is that you literally signed up before you came down here of who you're going to work with and what you're going to do. And that feeling of not doing that, that is more soul crushing than how that more than what anyone else can do to hurt you, if that makes sense.
And I think it's that prospect of not writing is, I've discovered that it's a lot scarier to me
Yes.
than that success. If that
Yes. Yes. I love that. That is such,
is so much more frightening
yeah.
than what anything that anyone could say to me, because, if you didn't like the book, that's okay. Hopefully you bought a copy.
Yeah. You bought a copy anyway, so that's fine. Oh, I love that. So did you have any other advice that you wanted to give you? That's a really great way to end it, but any other advice for writers out there, um, for anyone else that's in the same boat? Do you have any last words?
Stay open, write books that, you know, kids don't need perfect books. Okay. They just need something honest and to speak to who they are. I think if your story can make a kid feel seen, it can make them feel understood. That's why you keep going. You write stories that you care about. And, when you're doing that, you're helping shape how long a young person sees the world. And that's so special. And I think that if you write something that you believe in and that you would want for your children, then that's just so magic. And I think that that's the best advice I can give. Don't write to trends, because those books don't last. They don't last the sense of time. And I think that the ones with meaning and that are just so pure, that's what you need to put out there. That's what the world needs.
Yeah. That's such beautiful advice. And people can feel the energy behind what you put out there, like whether that be writing a book, social media posts, however it is that you decide to share what it is you have to share. People can feel that. Like people are intuitive and they always have been, but they can feel the energy that you put behind it. And also I think, you said you're not basing your success on how many people buy your books, because this is what comes through in my readings all the time, and I've read for a lot of writers, um, or people that want to write books and are like, should I write my book? Like, is that a thing? And if what Spirit always has said in those readings, like, don't base your success or worry around how many people buy it or whether or not it gets signed, because if one person reads it and it affects that one person and it changes them in a good way, then it's been worth it. But the thing is that it also has a ripple effect. One person reads it and is changed by whatever it is that you've written, or they're inspired or motivated or they feel touched by it, and that ripples out to people that they then connect with, whether or not they act different towards their children or how they show up in the world. And that ripple effect continues on. So one person reads it and they're amazed by it.
The energy lives on from that as well.
Yeah.
Like, purpose
Yeah.
behind the book. It's not so much the words, it's how it makes you feel.
Yeah. Beautiful. Amazing. So get your work out there, everybody. And where can we find you? So you have if we want to connect with you, you have an Instagram page. What's the handle again?
Oh,
knorman.author. Kelly Ann Norman. That is where you can find her on Instagram. So Instagram page at this point, but yeah, if you're following her on Instagram and get started there, yeah. And your other book, Be Brave Lucy, I've got that one. And the other one that came out was Understanding Molly, wasn't it?
So, yeah, that's my young adult novel. Yeah,
Yes. And then there's the other three that are still in the works.
it's still in the works.
And then our one coming out next month. Remembering Grandpa, I will also pop the link to be able to purchase Remembering Grandpa in the show notes. So we hope you enjoy it. We hope you love it. And thank you so much for Kelly for being here today. Stay tuned. She's got many more things to do. We're excited. Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you so much for listening to the Little Psychic Podcast. You can follow me over at Ms. June Mac on all social media or work with me via junemac.com. I would be so grateful if you love this episode for a follow and a review over on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. It's been an absolute privilege to be in your ear.